Welcome to Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews, the only show that's going to teach you
how to be somebody.
Where in your life did you learn that you're not good enough?
Take what you're most passionate about and what you're most fearful of, and what is the plan to overcome that fear, and what is the plan to enact that passion.
All right. Well, look at us here. We're alive. We made it. We did it. I'm here with my guest, Dan Spanbauer. He's actually the producer for Winners, Wallets, Worldviews, the podcast. And he's also the guy that hooks me up with speaking gigs. So, Daniel, welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, it's good to finally be on this show. You know, I was so thrilled when, AJ asked me to be on, and it's the 100th episode. I mean, you really don't talk about me at all.
Here's the thing, man.
I know I'm the behind-the-scenes guy, but I do have a podcast of my own, and I'm really pleased that you invited me on the show today.
Yeah, we'll talk about your podcast. We'll talk about the behind-the-scenes action you've been working with us. Well, it's funny. Here's the thing. We're not practicing social distancing right now.
We're not. I got out of my house today.
I know.
That's bad.
It's bad. I mean, this is such an interesting time. This is such an interesting time, and I think a lot of people have been talking about that. But we haven't talked about it publicly so much with this whole coronavirus thing, and you know me, dude. I'm like one of those guys that's slow to conform, you know?
Yeah.
So when you see all this stuff coming on about the coronavirus or stay at home, I think I was good with a lot of this up when people were using it as education. They're using the government was saying, we insist that you guys stay indoors. We insist that you limit social interaction. I was good with that. I think the part that starts bothering me is when they're mandating by law that you have to stay indoors. That's my issue. And I know we boldly do not go in politics on this show for very good reason. Frankly, like we've talked about this before, is you guys can't handle it. People cannot handle a political conversation, and you just immediately divide your audience or whatever. But I mean, that's just one of those things that I see. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it just becomes so easy to think something's going on right now. I mean, you watch Joe Rogan and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Like, this
you know,
conspiracy.
It's kind of been growing on me over the last couple of weeks. I hate to say it, but like some things aren't adding up.
Like what?
We were talking earlier, like this whole shortage of face masks thing for the hospital. Like I don't get that part of it. Like why we have such a shortage. You know, the government has all these stack ups of supplies, and all of a sudden now they're all gone, and we're not even at that peak. Thing. So if we can even talk about that,
it makes sense if we were at like the capacity. So you talk about flatten the curve,
yes. And we're not at that yet. And I think we're not. You know, there's a lot of hospitals and tents being set up, but those are all empty still.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like, okay, are we really ahead of the curve, or are we ahead of the game here? I don't know. Some things to me just aren't adding up. As for the stay-at-home policy, does it really mean you have to stay at home though? Is it really mandated? They're not saying you have to stay at home. They're saying you got to stay away from your job.
There's a law in the state of Wisconsin. They passed a law with the Safer at Home Act that it's unless you are an essential business, you have to stay.
But then why are they allowing you to be outside?
Because there's rules around it. So there's like some you can go outside, you can go to work if you're an essential business, but like you have to close your doors if you're not an essential business. That's the other thing, right? So who's telling me now that I'm not an essential business or somebody else isn't an essential business?
Right.
And it's like, why is that okay? And then you also see this this CARE Act that gets passed along with the Safer at Home order, but there's no relief for people that are self-employed. Right. We talk about small businesses, and within small businesses, we have people that are self-employed: massage therapists, hairstylists, personal trainers, etc. Those are people that have seen very little relief from this because you can't file unemployment. Now, part of the CARE Act was to allow for unemployment to be extended to self-employed people, but I mean, as far as looking into that transaction, I haven't seen anything happen with it. So it's like, I think that's a huge problem. If you have on one side of the political spectrum, or if you have one side of the government saying you have to shut down, then the other side's going to, well, and then do what? You have to be able to answer that for all circumstances. So I'm upset because me is trying to look at this without a political lens on it. I'm trying to say, why can the government tell me when to shut down my business? And they say, well, it's to slow down the curve or whatever. But then we see all this evidence in person that there's no evidence in person. There's only evidence on the media. And that's where I just can't get my head around what's going on. It's just from the news blowing up these proportions. I go to hospitals and they're empty. I look around town. I don't know a person that even knows a person that's sick from this thing. And I don't know if it's because of our area, because we're in, bum F Wisconsin, and maybe we just haven't gotten it. But it's just like they report all this, but I don't know any. I know off the top of my head, I can rattle people that have the flu. Off the top of my head, I can rattle off people that have died from cardiac disease, from cardiovascular disorders or health, have died from respiratory issues, have died from car accidents. Off the top of my head, I can name people I personally knew that this happened to. I don't know anyone that has it. So this is my issue with it. I guess it's this. There's this perception issue. I don't know where the reality and the perception is to intersect right now. That's my problem.
Yeah, I think you made some valid points. Some valid points too. New York City is supposed to be a real hot spot right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have they shut down the subways?
I don't know, have they?
I don't think so. Well, I
purposely don't watch the news because I don't believe
I'm just saying they haven't shut down the subways as much as I know. Well, I think we've all been on a subway in New York City. That's a disease-ridden thing. Is this why? If they're if this is really real down there, let's shut that down.
New York City,
I hate New York. I freaking hate it.
I love New York City, but I mean, you got to look at that place. It is just a walking cesspool. I mean, right?
That's what I mean. So
you're talking about the subway. I mean, you got to take a shower when you get off that thing.
Yeah,
it's disgusting, especially for Midwesterners like ourselves that are just like you. This is the closest I think I've ever been to you in my life.
Probably
right now on this podcast, just because we're trying to hover over the microphone. And it's like in New York City, it's just you're on top of each other like that all the time. So I can see how this is an issue in bigger cities, but it's just they're gross. That's what they are. Come on, Lola.
As Lola knocks my jacket off the table.
Yeah.
No, I guess my thing is like you said with government mandate. Are people being arrested? Do we have any evidence of people being arrested?
Well, I know
there was a big thing like
not yet.
Here's how Wisconsin is, right? When that happened, when that first order came down, people were calling, the dispatch, Winnebago counties, which we were living in, saying, "Well, are you going to pull people over if you don't have this sheet of paper saying that you're an essential employee for a business?" And the police are like, "No, we're not going to do that. We're going to pull you over because you had a traffic violation."
Sure. And here's the thing, right? So let's go to the extreme here. Let's go to the issues that people have with this. Let's do a brief history lesson. Okay. So back in the 1930s in Germany, when the Nazi Party was rising, what Hitler did was he took the Gestapo, which was the police force, and they made them very loyal to them, so he could enforce these crazy executive orders, and the police would enforce the law. We haven't seen that here yet, but now this is the slippery slope that could happen. Right now we have executive privilege that's essentially going completely unchecked. Because why? I can't challenge an executive order in the courts right now. The courts are shut down.
Shut down, right.
So what am I supposed to do? A governor says this is a law, and the police force, let's say he gets the police force to buy into it, there's nobody challenging that or stopping it because the court systems are completely shut down for God knows how long. This is my issue. I think people have found a loophole right now in how we can create a tyrannical society. This is what we're experiencing. So even if this isn't what's going to happen with the coronavirus, I think we're seeing a loophole that needs to be closed very quickly in the near future, or this could turn into something. Yeah. That's my problem. Is like we don't have any fairness. There's nobody saying right now this is out of you can't do that. You can't tell me to shut my business down. There's nobody challenging it. There's nobody see if that's constitutional, if that's within my rights. That's my problem with this whole thing. With this, small businesses right now are being crushed. Absolutely crushed. And people say, okay, you can buy local, you can go buy takeout from your local restaurants and stuff. But here's the thing: local restaurants make most of their money on the drinks. I'm not going to get a mixer to go at the restaurant down the street. I might get a burger or something, but their margins are the drinks. Yeah. So when you're shutting down these places, they are taking a huge blow, no matter what.
I think these takeout, and like I said, and we've talked about this. We're trying to buy local and takeout, order food to eat, but that money that's just paying the bills,
Right.
if that, or keeping the lights
They're not
on.
making money.
Right, keeping the lights on, and
Paying employees.
And I think that's another thing. I think people, I've had some group texts and chats with, some of my buddies and fantasy football friends and stuff. Like, people don't understand the stimulus package. People don't understand, like, I know people were asking, well, is this income? Is this taxable income? Like, I don't think the government's done a good job at, like, saying, well, what are you getting? When are you getting this? And really what you should be using it for. Because how many people are going to take that $1,200 and go out and buy a PS4 and a brand new TV?
Right. That's the thing. I urge everybody. I mean, it's your right to spend your money how you want.
And it is your money, right?
But if you're getting $1,200 or $2,400, go out and buy something from a local business. Buy something that you need. Pay your rent. If you guys that's the other thing. All right.
Yeah.
Let's get on this for a second. Right now, I'm a landlord. I have properties, and I have tenants in there that probably were affected by this. Now, here's the issue. We're saying that you don't have to pay your rent to the landlords. Okay, so most landlords do not own their properties free and clear. I do not own my properties free and clear. I hold a mortgage to the bank. Now that I hold the mortgage to the bank, they said, okay, yeah, we understand this. So the renters don't have to pay the landlords, and we're even going to say the landlords don't have to pay their mortgages. We push that back.
Right.
Now we're villainizing the banks. Here's the thing. These banks are local businesses too. Most of my mortgages are community banks, credit unions, local banks. Right. They're getting crushed. Because here's the thing. When a bank can't cash flow, you know what they do? They don't loan out more money.
Right.
So you and Jenny want to go buy a home. You want to have a nice little 2.5 kids and a golden retriever named Phil. No, but with your picket fence, you can't do that right now because the banks aren't going to lend you money because they're not cash flowing, because they're not getting paid by people that already owe them money. That's a huge problem that we haven't looked at. And if we keep this thing going for 90 days to 4 months to 6 months to 9 months in some cases where we don't have people paying their landlords rent, this is a huge issue. So pay your bills the same order you would normally pay your bills, because this is unfair to the entire system. And it's like people think that only the wealthy are the people that own these properties. No, they're middle class to lower middle class people that often own rental properties. It's another way of supplementing their income. Actually, most of the people that I know that own a lot of properties are people that were tradesmen and they were handymen and they built properties up that way. So that's another issue I have with this whole shutdown thing. Now, let's not ignore the issue. The issue here is that we need to flatten the curve because we build up. There's too much capacity risk of the hospitals with equipment, with professionals as far as surgeons, physicians, nurses, etc. The medical professionals, and there's also issue with the rooms in general.
Right.
So let's look at that issue now. If we're saying that the issue is we need to flatten the curve, because if we don't flatten this curve, we're going to overextend the capacity. This should be the market's opportunity to completely lean into that problem. So if I'm a real estate developer, I could be building up some temporary rooms near hospitals right now that we know could be converted into a hotel down the road, right? Or we could be looking at GM. A lot of these different companies are now increasing their productivity on ventilators. We can look at expediting or pulling people in and out of retirement. And they're doing a lot of these things. But what I'm saying is that if the extension of the curve right now, lowering that, the longer we push that out, is a serious risk to the economy and the housing market and all sorts of those things. And I think that's one of the problems that isn't being discussed enough. It's becoming this polarizing issue that you either want to see everybody live, or you want to either see people die, or you want to see the market bounce back. And it's just like, it's a false dilemma.
Right.
I think that there's approaches we can look at both of these, and we can shift our resources to try to attack it correctly. But sitting inside and watching Tiger King all day, which is a great show, is not the solution. I think the solution is, where can we contribute in different ways? So that's a problem. And I don't know if people are really considering that when you're talking about getting a $1,200, $2,400 stimulus check, and people aren't going to pay their rents for 9 months.
I think you hit a great point. I think, like, yes, we're under a change right now, but that should be something you shouldn't change. Pay your bills like you're supposed to when you can do it. Everybody's got a monthly plan, and and people are going to get these checks. Pay your bills in order for that. Go to the grocery store when you need to go, and after that, what else do you need to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like, what you're saying.
So people are out of work, right?
They're out of work right now.
So they need this money to pay their bills, not buy a PlayStation and a flat screen TV to make this quarantine go.
And I think
quicker.
this is a great point.
Right.
You know, I'm reading a book. I can't remember what the actual title is, but that's usually what I do. I usually just pick books off the shelf at the library that look interesting.
Yeah,
And
the cover.
business,
Just
yeah,
straight
I'm
off
a
the
cover guy. But it was crazy. I was telling Jenny this last night. I was reading it. And this was in 2014, so not a super old book, but it showed, like, plan out 5 years from ahead of now.
Mm-hmm.
Whether your job, like, think in your head that you're not going to be working that job 5 years ahead.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do? You have an entrepreneur. Like, you don't need to be an entrepreneur, but you need to have an entrepreneurial mindset or have something in place. And now I think these are where people are getting caught, where they're okay. I can work from home, but now that we see that this can be a shutdown in the United States, holy cow! I'm 32 years old. Did I ever think in my wildest dreams that something like this would happen, where a virus could sweep the country like this? No, I don't. I never thought that, right? And whether it's legit or not as legit as people think, like, it's still happening.
Right.
And it's something. It still is interfering with our daily lives, with the market, with work. So that, just like knowing that from having an entrepreneurial mindset, like, okay, if I can't be working, what can I be doing to work for myself?
Yeah,
Like,
and I
huge.
think there's a couple lessons in there. So if we back up to the first problem we talked about, it's that there's an issue between perception and what's real, what's actually going on right now. We're not sure, right?
Yeah.
We know the media is presenting some side of this that's blowing this to be a pandemic, and we don't know if it's beyond what the media is saying, if it's worse, or if it's really
Right, and we don't
quite
know, and we don't
insignificant.
know with numbers from China too. I read something this morning too, whether
Right.
a pretty trustworthy thing. Like, do we know what those numbers really truly were, good or bad? Were they worse than what they were coming over? Are they
Yeah.
better? Like, we don't
Like
know.
you and me, just two normal idiots sitting here talking about this, and we're just completely left in the dark. Nobody knows what's going on. So that's the first issue. The second issue is that all of the solutions that our policymakers have put forward are pretty bad. Really, everything.
Really, yeah.
Shut down the whole country, or open the country and let everybody die. That's really not a good solution either. So something's weird. Something's not adding up, and we'll put that there. Now, the bigger lesson in this, I think, for small business owners, entrepreneurs, startups, entrepreneurs, is what you were just talking about: adaptability. Right?
Exactly.
Like, how, in such a weird circumstance, is this going to allow you to flex, to be flexible and go with it? Right? It's like a riptide. We talked about this in other episodes. You want to not swim against the current, but you want to allow yourself to be pulled out by the riptide, adapt, and swim back. And I think that some people are pissing up wind with some of their strategies right now, and I think that's what we need to look at. How can you convert your business to online? I think restaurants have done the best they can with
They're
a lot of
limited.
takeout.
They're limited
right?
with takeout.
So
and
so
what they're doing.
entertainment, hospitality, restaurants, those things are going to really be tough. But I think that there's some silver lining in all this. There's a strategy with all this that we can look at, and we can figure out how can we pivot given the market circumstance, if this is short term or long term, because we don't know if this is short term or long term. I don't know if this is going to be done in 9 months. I don't know if this is going to be done in 3 years. Who knows? They're saying that this might be the way of life for the next 3 years.
I know, it's
Right?
insane.
And so I mean, regardless, we've got to be able to flex. We got to be able to adapt, and it's easier for some people than others.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
It's that the message here is, how are you going to adapt and change?
Yeah, and I think, like, not just being personal, but the line of work that I was in, they're completely shut down. They're completely, their orders are done, because we work off schools and businesses, like, custom apparel and custom stuff like that. They have no opportunity to grow during this time. Like, It's like, I'm almost blessed to see that I made that decision, not knowing that this was happening, but I would have been out of luck just like all these other people. I wouldn't have had an income coming in.
Right.
So I think, being adaptable and having a plan for yourself, I think that's going to open up a lot of people's eyes.
And I think that what's needed in the market doesn't go anywhere; it just shifts, right? So what we're seeing is that where people's attention was before is other places. Yeah. So I think that if you want to look at how you can contribute value in the marketplace, you can start. Oh, excuse me, this coffee is really good.
Coffee buffet.
But you got to look at where in the market can you start to push your energy and your efforts. People are home now. They're going to spend more time on their phone. They're going to spend more time on social media. They're going to spend more time on Netflix. They want more entertainment. They want to be active. So I think these are all potential solutions for business owners to figure out how they can pivot and connect with their market. And I'm actually very impressed with a lot of local businesses and how they've done that.
I think they've been doing it, especially in our area. They've been doing a great job. I mean, they're being visible to everybody, through the social media platforms. People are really, in the Midwest, people are caring. They really are. I think they do care about the businesses, but you can only support them, like you said, so much. Like, you can't support every single restaurant on a given day.
Yeah.
I mean, we could try.
You're right.
We'd like to try that, have a huge takeout buffet. But it's just like, we've tried to eat out every other day just to try to, gain some back that stuff into the community, but it's really just keeping the lights on for them. And it's sad that it's came to that.
So there's clearly, it's still not a good solution. And how much of this is on the restaurant owners because they didn't see this coming, right? How much of this is on the restaurant owners because they don't have a better solution? And how much of this is on them being mandated to shut down? That they're feeling not only political pressure but social pressure to shut down. So even let's say the government wasn't involved, there's a lot of social pressure to flatten the curve. You don't care about life if you stay open. That's a problem, and I think we need to have open discussion around what the right balance is, because I don't think we're there. I don't think the government telling people to shut down their businesses is right no matter what, because I think it's a slippery slope to them telling you to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
We can shut down courthouses. You can't challenge any of our executive orders. This is a problem. That's what we talked about. It's a serious issue that I think is going underlooked. I think it opens the door to potential fascism, given the faith or whatever you have in our political system. What's stopping them from doing whatever they want right now?
Yeah. I think it's like, and I know I use this term, with the sports world and stuff, like, why did they shut down the NCAA tournament? Why were they going to play, these games with no fans? Like, but couldn't you see, like, all of a sudden somebody goes to one of these games, contacts the coronavirus,
wipes out everybody,
wipes out a bunch of people. All those people's families come back and sue not only the arena, they could sue the NCAA. The same thing with restaurants. Like, restaurant stays open. Somebody goes and eats there. Contacts. I mean, there's a lot of loss. I mean, that's just how things could happen down the road. So I could see why they did that.
Yeah, but shutting down to avoid a liability is still stupid. You know what I mean? In that circumstance, yeah,
I get it, but you got to look. I don't know. It is a tricky point. I'm glad that you brought this stuff up. It is.
I don't have an answer. I'd say my answer would be to allow the market to come in and do the best they can to solve the problem. Allow people to freely make more respirators, ventilators. Allow real estate developers to build up centers to support these people. I think that there's a solution there, that we're handcuffed still because we basically, instead of whole-assing one thing, we've half-assed two things. That's what we've done. We've said, well, we're going to keep everybody inside, but only a couple of you. It's like either keep everyone inside or let everybody roll and just like see what happens.
Yeah, I guess the question for you being, owning real estate, here in Wisconsin, Governor Evers I believe he put in a thing through April 30th. You cannot evict anybody, right?
Yeah, I know. It's complete.
But here's my question. And here's President Trump went from trying to be back open for business around Easter, right? So, and now it's down to up to April 30th, right? Or through there, it's past the Wisconsin's even. I mean, how much lenience are they going to give renters and stuff like this? Could be months and months where a owner like you is not going to get paid,
right? And
there's nothing you can do about it.
And that's what I was kind of going with before. It's like, okay, so even if you get mortgage relief from the banks, and we'll say that the banks are fine with getting no mortgage payments from their customers, right? Now what? Like, there's still utilities that need to be paid. There's still maintenance that needs to be done on the buildings. There's still things that need to be upkept because people are living there. The cost of living in that building is still a cost that needs to be considered. It just doesn't go away. So the people getting the raw end of the stick are not only the landlords and the bank, but also potential home buyers. I can't see a scenario if this lasts more than a couple of weeks where the housing market doesn't crash. I just can't see how that wouldn't happen. I think that no matter if we start putting pressure on the banks, that's the best way to end up in a recession.
Yeah, and I think
it's exactly happened in 2008.
And I'm, just for you,
only the government's making
being a landlord. Here's what I'm thinking too. Like, okay, even if we get back to normalcy, kind of, let's say by July.
Okay.
Your renters have not paid any rent to you. Do you think they're going to give you a big fat check that day on July 1st when they're back to work?
No.
that's going to streamline over months.
You might as well,
months.
you might as well kiss
Like-
that check goodbye.
Like you got, let's say it's $700 a month. That's $2,100 in back rent they owe. Well, just because they're back at work, they're not going to get that.
Right, and
away.
you think they were budgeting for it, and you think that their stimulus check was saved to do that. I mean, that's the thing.
And here's what I think too. Like, and if this lasts longer, there's going to be another stimulus check out.
Yeah,
They're
that's
gonna have
and
to.
that's not free money.
And that's not free money either. But I'm saying is, all of a sudden now people are starting to get in that comfortability, saying, "Well, $1,200 does pay my bills," but they're not. But
right, and now you're getting
now you're getting
into the
now you're
political
getting into
spectrum.
now you're getting into okay, I'm just going to be waiting for this $1,200 check each month.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
now,
ridiculous.
This has got so messy so fast, and it's been
And I guess that's my problem is we let this get this messy when we're not really sure what's even going on. That's, I guess, the biggest problem I have.
No, I agree. Nobody know.
I don't know if this is worse than they're saying, if it's just a joke.
Right.
It's just no idea. And everyone's like, we'll freak out. We'll just throw this out there and see what happens. It's like, that's not the way we do. We should chill, make some decisions. We don't have time to make it. We need to just react. And it's just like when you're just reacting instead of like thinking about solving the problem. And people are like, we just need to make a decision. And that's what we're doing. We're just making these hasty decisions that are just going nowhere. And I think only going to cause long-term issues. So sell your stocks.
But I do feel, like I said, I even said in my other podcast, which, for, bar owners that have to completely shut down.
Right.
Completely. That
Not just restaurants, but bars.
They don't serve food, and the price markup on, bars can make good money. But we're taking away weeks and weeks of business.
Yeah.
Of nothing. And granted, yes, they're shut down, but there's still electricity. There's still, there are bartenders, and it's like, I don't know. It's just, I really feel for the business owners, and I feel for landlords too. Like, people don't realize that even just because you're a landlord doesn't mean you have
You're just sitting
enormous
on a
amount of
stack
money
of cash,
or
right?
a cash flow. Like, we talk about cash flow a lot.
That's what I think the solutions are. Number one, you get your stimulus check if you get one. Pay your bills to your landlord, pay your rents, or support local, right?
Yep,
Pay the bills you should be paying.
Yeah.
And then, because the thing is, people are only going to pay what they need to pay. And that's, I think, that's something we can all contribute to. Anyone listening to this can say, I commit to at least pay the small businesses that I owe money to. Mm-hmm. I think that's fair. That's a fair way to do this with whatever check you're getting. This isn't just free money. This is to pay your bills. That's the idea. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing, I think on a holistic level, on a macro scale, I think we could be looking at ways of aggressively increasing capacity of these hospital systems. That's probably what the market should be looking at doing. I think they're doing a decent job of that. But support local businesses, people. Please, just support local businesses. Like,
anything you can.
They're getting
right?
crushed.
They
They're
really
just getting
are.
crushed, and it's a shame.
And like I said, if it's once or twice a week that you grab takeout, yeah, it's not going to save them completely, but it's going to help them pay something else. They might be paying another local business for their stuff. So
they might owe bills, and
right. And
people just think because it's a business, it's made money. A lot of these guys are in tight margins, and it's just like anything else.
Yeah.
A couple shifts in your projected sales could really set you back. So that's something to note. But on the brighter side of things, this is our 100th episode. So we had a whole bunch of guests lined up, and they've just been scrambled all over with this COVID-19 nonsense. And I say it's nonsense because we don't know what the hell's going on.
Basically.
That's why it's nonsense. Like, could I be wrong? Could this be so bad that we don't even realize it? Yeah. Could this be not a problem at all? That's just, something's weird, and it's just a huge weird thing. But it's affecting my business. I mean, Dan helps me get speaking engagements all around the country. Paid speaking gigs are no longer happening because people can't meet in massive groups of people. I mean, it's affecting us, and it's a shame because this is a passion of mine and ours to go travel and help people and connect and run events. And there's something about social energy when you're just with a lot of people. No matter if you're introverted or extroverted, we are social creatures, and I think we all benefit from having that camaraderie along with others nearby, and you're not getting that right now. And I think that's a shame. So I hope this is just going to blow over and we don't think about this ever again, and this is just a podcast episode of our 100th episode, what we were doing at that time.
Wouldn't that be crazy? Isn't it kind of crazy this is number 100 and we're sitting like in this time, like right now?
I know.
What's going on? Like, it's still about, and like I said, not to go back to it, but is this going to be a yearly thing? Is this virus going to go away after 1 year, or are we going to,
right.
we're talking 18 to
right.
24 months for a vaccine. People need to realize realize that too. Everybody thinks, well, they're making a vaccine in Washington. Do you know how many steps that's got to go through?
Oh my gosh.
To get through that,
And for good reason. And
right,
if they expedite the
you can't
steps,
just be, sticking people with this vaccine and then have any consequences on that too. So for those people who think that this vaccine's coming, it's not, and it's not coming anytime soon.
I know it's just a disaster. But here's some good news. We currently have, what we're going to do is we're going to extend our current drawing for $200 Amazon gift card. And yeah, everybody listening right now, drop what you're doing. Go leave a review on iTunes for this podcast. So it's
you have an unbelievable chance at winning, by the way.
It's
we set
ridiculous.
This up. I mean,
we set this up.
A lot of reviews.
We're like, I don't know how many people will chime in.
I mean, I'm trying to think about a fake name to like set up that AJ won't recognize. Like, I thought maybe I'd put like Ari Gold, but he know that one. Like, because this is crazy. You have a great chance to win. He's got a great podcast. We have great guests. Page through the old podcast episodes.
You guys would be blown away with some of the people we've had on the show. But if you listen to this podcast at any point in your life and you found some value in listening to what we talk about, or it's provided insight into your life as a business owner or as a husband or as a wife or something like that, I encourage you guys to go on to iTunes. You can leave a 5-star review and a comment of something meaningful. What we'll do is we'll enter you into a drawing for a $200 Amazon gift card. And I'm telling you guys, there's not that many people that are reviewing this. Right.
Taking advantage of this. Everybody's home. Everybody's listening to podcasts. Like here's $200, man. Like,
right. This is a chance you guys have to win $200, and it's really easy. You just got to leave a review, and I don't know. There's probably only been 10 or 12 people that have participated.
Yeah.
So I'm no mathematician, but that's like a 10 or 8% chance you're looking. That's pretty good odds for $200. It's pretty easy. Yeah, you're not a math.
I'm just a promoter.
You're the charisma guy.
Although we do start. I mean, I'm starting to deal with numbers with with your contracts and stuff, but usually I forward them over to you for you to finalize them.
You do a good job.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's like Trump on TV. You do such a great job. That's just,
no, but seriously, guys, I know I promote my podcast a lot on my social media, but like AJ's had a lot of great guests on, and some of them I've contacted, brought on. Some AJ have had brought on, but we're talking people with 50, 100,000 followers on social media platforms. So these are
people that have built, multi-million-dollar businesses, people that are really experienced veteran business owners. We have a lot of veterans on the show.
Cool stories,
leaders,
yeah,
it's really been a really fun time the last 2 years being able to have those different podcasts and bringing those guests on and being able to build enough of a platform to where we could get some really high quality guests, cool people to interact with and share that. It's just so undervalued, you know what I mean? Like this is just free content out there, awesome guests, stuff that just makes like light years of pain and problems that you would figure out on your own go away. And it's not just all self-help, it's not just all business, it's a little mix of everything. Pick through, find some subject you like, and leave a review. It's really awesome. But I want to talk a little bit as we wrap this thing up, Dan. Let's talk a little bit about what you're rolling with right now. So you got On the Wagon podcast. You got This Is D-Span. You're connected with. We're in Wisconsin. It's not the podcasting hub of the world by any means, but you're pretty well connected to a lot of local podcasts. You're a podcaster yourself. You also produce my show. What is going on with the shows you're running? How are those looking? What's the future look like?
Yeah, I mean, when I first met you about 2.5 years ago, actually coming up on 3 years, AJ was kind of like the influence of me starting a podcast. So I'm like, okay, at this time, what am I good at? What do I like talking about? Well, I like talking sports. I like talking entertainment. I like talking like fun stuff that's going on in the world. So I created This Is D-Span. We started in March of 2017, so this has actually been 3 years. But just recently, I kind of changed format up. We have a YouTube channel and my Facebook page, so we post all of our video pods. I'm going strictly to video pods with This Is D-Span, but we're starting to have some really cool interviews on. I thought, with our venture project and stuff, wanted to start local, stay local. I'm like, why don't I start interviewing some local people? So we got just recently last week we had one of my former players who's works in Marquette basketball as a senior manager, which means he's basically part of the coaching staff.
Yep.
Really cool. He's going on to big things. We had the local, superstar all-star Carter Thomas on the podcast, who just made the WBCA All-Star game, which means he's going to, raise money for the MAC Fund, which helps fight childhood
So if
cancer.
you're into sports, local sports, you're into any kind of like sports comedy. You know,
Yeah, I mean, we do
that's your
fun
flavor,
stuff too.
man.
Like if we have, right now we pounded out the Netflix show Love Is Blind. Just an absolute disaster, dumpster fire of a reality show, but it was awesome. 10 episodes, we talk about that stuff. But that's kind of me. This is D-Span's more of a fun, goal getting thing, and back to my real like new project. Just launched February 1st on the Wagon podcast.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so just recently, as of November 1st, I've been sober. I went on sobriety from alcohol. I had some alcohol issues for the last, 14 years.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad?
I would probably say about an 8 out of 10. I was getting, you have to go back and listen to some of the episodes. So the purpose of this podcast.
Let us know why it's okay to laugh at this too.
Because it's okay to laugh because this podcast, it's a sobriety podcast with a shot of comedy. All right? So I like reliving some of my war stories, is what alcoholics call it. Going back to looking at your drinking stories, the problems it caused with drinking. But I decided to do this because I realized, I had an OWI. I've had some things run into the law, but nothing got that bad. Mm-hmm. I got out of the, I didn't hurt anybody in the accident and stuff or in the OWI. So I'm like, okay, how can I help people, who are going through something very similar, realize that, hey, I might have an issue here, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel type of thing. So that's kind of where I'm going with that. We're about 8 episodes in, and now I've actually been having people reach out and interviewing them and letting them tell their stories on the podcast. So it's kind of a self-help, but it's kind of a comedic. Yeah.
So you're taking, excuse me, this coffee, bro. So you're taking this, it could have been a very serious situation. You're making a jovial experience with it because, you're bringing in some stories that usually drunk stories are funny.
Almost all of them are funny.
They
really are.
Almost all the funniest things that you do in your life are when you're drinking.
Yeah.
And you're able to relive some of that, which gives you, I think, more comfort in the fact that you're okay retiring, right?
Yeah.
You're okay being done with it. And I think that that's really cool, and it's unique that you've been able to find that as a tool to stay sober, to keep moving forward. The discussion of your sobriety, the openness of your sobriety also, I think, is that commitment to sticking with it. And it's just a cool experience. And I think, you and me got started with the coffee buffet back in the day.
I love it.
And
now I'm addicted to freaking coffee.
Yeah.
That's
the lesser of two evils, right?
Yeah.
But it's really cool, and I encourage you guys to check it out. They can go on
the Wagon. It's on iTunes, fully out there. It's very launched. There's 8 episodes. I uploaded them all at once.
And you bring in funny dudes from the area that have also struggled with alcoholism, and they tell their stories, right?
We have some fun with it too. It's not, I don't like being. When I launched my first episode, I really reached out to some of my close friends and said, "Hey, take a listen to this. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer podcast. That's just not who I am. I'm always laughing at stuff. I laugh at myself at these stories that reliving. It's just been crazy. But everybody said, no, this was a really good, funny podcast. But we found the seriousness of you taking this for real and staying sober. So I really felt like, okay, I'm on to something. Especially in this area, I think we know that alcohol and drinking is very. We're
in Wisconsin, guys.
Common.
It's the drinking capital of the world.
Sometimes people don't realize that maybe their drinking is an issue.
Yeah.
Like me personally, I didn't have to drink every day. I wasn't addicted to the actual alcohol every day. But when I drank, that was where
it was a binge drinking.
That's
problem.
where my allergy came in. I didn't want to stop. I wanted more. I loved the feeling. So yeah, that's where we're at with that. So I appreciate you bringing that up, and go ahead and download them. And if you want interested in being on the show, there's all kinds of links and contacts for me, and we'd love to have you on and hear your story.
Where can they follow it?
They can follow. I'm on Instagram, On the Wagon Pod, and then obviously on iTunes. It's if you search On the Wagon Podcast, you'll find it. 8 episodes in, but also if we do have a YouTube page for that too, and On the Wagon Podcast. So there's 3 options for you to follow me.
Yeah, I think it's awesome, especially for people that want to have some fun with their sobriety experience. Or Marissa and I did a year where we didn't drink at all.
And the funny thing is, I made fun of him for a year.
Yeah, you made fun of it. You made fun of me the whole damn year because I wasn't drinking. And I think it's just to know you can do it, to know that you have that support. I think that people respect it, and it's just I think I wanted to also do it to other friends of mine that were struggling with alcoholism, to show them you can have fun with this. You don't need to drink to make things fun.
Right.
You can have fun in life, and occasionally now I'll drink a glass of wine here and there, but I don't think I've been drunk in almost 2 years.
Yeah, I think you get real fired up off coffee though. You're
I'm more of an uppy guy. Yeah.
As we've been pounding coffee all day. But,
yeah. Well, cool. Well, I apologize for doing this in my living room. You know, we have plans to develop a co-working space. We've been working on this for a while now, and of course, with all the nonsense in the news and the COVID-19 pandemic going on, we've delayed our progress with the venture project. You can go to @theventureproject on Instagram and just keep up with us a little bit. But we wanted to create a co-working space and a business incubator. And part of that, we were going to have our podcast studio, and we were going to build out a new office. And this has all kind of gotten, halted for the moment. So we're doing these podcasts here, but we're going to create a podcast network with local podcasters. We'll help them either produce their show, get their show marketed, promoted, so they can have some of the success that we've been having with our podcasts. And we also want to bring in local businesses or people that have ideas or inventions or a burning desire or something in their heart that they want to get out there. And we want to be able to bring them the resources they need to make it happen. I'm a little disappointed with, people who are afraid to talk about the big ideas. I want people to be able to talk about something that's crazy, that's a crazy idea, that's an awesome thing that's been on their heart for a long time, and they don't have anyone to talk about that with. They don't have anyone to help bring them the tools they need to make that real. We wanted to be that solution, and that's what the Venture Project is all about. So that's been our project here the last couple weeks, and depending on how this whole thing turns out, we'll see how we need to pivot it to make it something real. But we're really excited about trying to develop that space, trying to build a podcast studio for people in this area to utilize and be a part of, as well as give people the same tools and resources that we use in our business, and also connect them locally. Yeah. So do you have anything else about the Venture Project? Dan's been just managing the project for me.
I'm really just excited, like AJ said, about the podcast and the podcast studio. I think there's a lot of people with voices that are scared to do a podcast. Mm-hmm. I was, and granted, I do it out of my house, but I think having that, the value that we're going to have in the Venture Project space, you got two people who've been through the fire a little bit. We're still learning every day too. We still work, trying to get our content out there more, and I think that spot. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of diamonds in the rough, in the Fox Valley area that are really good at talking and whether it's sports, whether it's business.
And we'll tell you straight up.
And we'll be honest with you.
We'll tell you if this is any good, if it's worth it, if you're a talker, if you're not. We'll give you feedback that we think is going to be helpful. But
we're going to keep rolling with this project. Like you said, we kind of hit a speed bump, but it was something that we can't control at this point, and we're gonna work through it. And we're still excited for the future. I know that.
That's right.
I am.
Yeah. Well, guys, once again, this is our live version of Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews. You can find us on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Google Play. We're pretty much everywhere. And if you guys, this is our 100th episode. It wasn't as glamorous as we originally pictured. We had other guests and things like that, but because of the COVID-19 issue, we've had to kind of take this back a level. But you guys can go, if you go to iTunes and you leave a review, a positive review, 5-star comment, we will enter you into the raffle to get a $200 Amazon gift card that is available to anybody that leaves a review. We'll put you in there running, and you've got a pretty damn good chance of getting it, because a lot of people haven't been participating because there's a couple steps you got to do. Like, you got to go to iTunes, number one.
I know, tough. These are tough.
Number two, you got to scroll down to the bottom of our podcast. And number three, you got to type in a review. So there's 3 solid steps, and a lot of people are like, $200, 3 steps.
But it's also 3 steps to go on Netflix. You got to turn your
that's right. You got to turn your TV on, and you don't win $200 if you go on Netflix.
You're actually paying.
So I encourage you guys to do that. And if you appreciate this podcast, you appreciate any notes or anything we talk about, please share it with your friends. Leave reviews. Those are things that really help us be able to reach new audiences as we try to provide a positive message to people that have those aspiring dreams that they want to take on. And we want to be your cheerleaders. We want to be your support network. We want to be there for you to help you root it on, because you're just not told that your ideas are ever worth anything. And I think we'll even if it's an idea that isn't right for you, I think we'll help figure out what is right for you, and get you on a path to become successful in whatever we think your God-given strengths really are. So with that said, folks, once again, this is Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews. We decided to do a little podcast live here in the afternoon, but this will be posted to all our different podcast platforms. You can follow me at Aaron Armstrong 33 on Instagram. You can go to my Facebook page, Aaron J. Armstrong. LinkedIn, or you can go to AaronJArmstrong.com, and you can find all of my links there. Dan, where can we find you? My podcast producer.
Yeah,
Thank you for being my guest, Dan.
No problem. Thanks for having me on. Personal Instagram at dspan34, on the Wagon Pod, and at dspan at This Is DSpan Podcast. Those are my 3 Instagrams. Those are the best place to find me.
So you can get connected with Dan if you guys are interested in building a podcast of your own. If you're interested, he does web development as well. So if you want to build out a website or anything that you want for your personal brand, he's a great resource to connect with as well. Well, with that said, folks, thank you so much for listening through to the end. Really appreciate you taking the time. Go ahead and be somebody.